Hello, everyone. This is MMA Interesting Prospects podcast. Today, our guest is Brayden Benson, who will fight on Caged Thunder 33, August 2nd. Hello, Brayden. How are you?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
I'm good, and of course, thank you for taking the invitation, especially before the probably the toughest fight of your career, because it's like clearly the on the amateur scene prospect against prospect fight.
For sure.
So if you can tell me, what do you think about your opponent, and what do you think he can be a threat in which department, let's say?
I definitely have a lot of I have respect for every opponent I've ever had. You know what I mean? I believe that's one of the most important things, respecting the guy that gets in that cage with you. But in particular, Jackson is a very tough young kid. I believe he's 20 years old. Pretty athletic kid in super good shape. From what I've seen, he seems to be, pretty good on his diet and stuff like that. So kid's in shape. He comes game and he comes ready. We actually have some history. Me and Jackson, we wrestled in high school, and he's wrestled in all of his fights. He's done really not much more. He's grappled quite a bit. He's got some good teeps, couple of good kicks, but mainly grappling. I remember our wrestling match, and it definitely went my way. I'm not going to sit here and showboat, but I won that match decisively, very easily. Um, so I know that he's not going to be able to grapple me like he's grappled his last five opponents, and he knows that too. So I'm just looking to go out there, and the main thing I've been working on in this fight camp is really showcasing all of my MMA. You know what I mean? I know I'm a good wrestler. I know I'm a good striker. I know I have good jujitsu and good submissions. But in this camp and what I've been focusing on since I debuted is really being able to tie all these things together. You know what I mean? Like when I fake my shots, getting my guy to really react, bite on stuff, getting set up my striking. Same thing with striking. When I'm striking, it can set up my takedowns. Really mixing and blending everything together. But Jackson, very tough opponent. He's got four submissions and one decision. So obviously you got to be aware of he's good at taking it back. They're all rear naked chokes that he's got his finishes. So I just got to be aware of those back takes and you know what I mean? I go out there and I don't like to think about where I'm getting threatened at. I believe if you start thinking about too much of what your opponent's going to do, obviously you got to be aware of it, right? But if you let it get in your head and really think about it, I feel like you're not going to be focusing on your offense. You know what I mean? If I'm just thinking about what he's going to do or where he's good or where I feel threatened at with him, then I'm not getting to what I'm good at, I feel like. So I obviously try to make sure that we're aware and go over things that they're good at. But at the same time, I'm worried about how am I going to find my offense? What's going to set me up to, land some strikes?
On the paper, it's like finisher against finisher because of course you've got five wins by knockouts. He got four submissions on his record. So actually, it's like the big chance that this fight will not be like full distance. And especially that you've got, I think that two knockouts under a minute. So it's also like a super impressive thing to accomplish.
Yeah. And I think me and Jackson are similar in that aspect. We both come from that wrestling background, right? But for me personally, man, I don't, if it's there, I'm going to take that submission, right? But when I take somebody down, and I feel like this is where sometimes wrestlers get a bad rap in MMA, is when these guys take people down, you try to hug somebody for 15 minutes or an amateur 9 minutes and ride out that decision. When I take, unless like I understand, if you get clipped, like, oh, I got to hold on, take somebody down for a second, man. But when I take somebody down, I'm looking to make you not want to be there. You know what I mean? I'm looking to inflict damage. If submission is wide open, obviously we're going to take it. It's MMA. But my main goal when I get somebody down is to get to a dominant position and make you pay for letting me get there and make you not want to be in there. So I think that's where we're a little bit different. And I think that's going to show in this fight. I'm not, I'm a great, I'd like to think I'm a very nice individual outside of that cage, man. But when I get in that cage, that flip switch, and I think that may be the difference in this fight is just toughness and just being mean. And I know I'm mean, especially in that cage.
And it will be your fourth fight this year, so you are like super active, and of course you started like around a year ago, so it's
Yep.
like six fights in just a year.
Yep, we just hit a year of my first MMA fight, July 6th. So actually about I think today's the 17th, so 11 days ago was my like 1 year anniversary of my debut. So yeah, super cool that I'm already I believe with this fight I'll be top 8 in the country out of 23 hundred and some change amateurs. Top three for sure in the Midwest and number one in Ohio. So to be able to do that in a year, man, it's super cool to think about. It's a great opportunity. I go and look at the rankings in the country and the top 10 in Ohio. I give Jackson credit too in this because he just debuted last year too. But you're not going to find very many guys that have, 6 fights after debuting a year ago. You know what I mean? And that's what my gym Demolition Fight Team has really instilled in me is, being able to take these risks and these opportunities, when being ready at all times. You know what I mean? I don't need 6 months in between fights. You know what I mean? Especially when I go out and get these quick finishes. You know what I mean? I'm trying to make a name for myself. I'm trying to provide a better life for my family. So I just keep my body ready, and when I get those calls, we take them. So.
And also earlier this year, you made your Fury FC debut. It was a split decision loss, but probably it also was a kind of good experience for you because you fought against really good fighter for 9 minutes on the a little bit like bigger stage. So
Yeah.
probably it also can be like beneficial for you for the future.
Yeah, for sure. I think, and it's funny you said that because I'd say the same thing to people is, I learned the most from that fight than I have from any other fight. Um, I really thought we did enough to get the win there. My team thought we won. The promoter of Cage Fury actually stopped me when I got out of the cage, said, man, I really thought that was going to go the other way. You're more than welcome to come back here whenever you want. So it stung at first. It hurt. But then when I look back at it, you know what I mean? I can't make excuses for myself because at the end of the day, we could have done more. You know what I mean? I got a little, I got lazy in that third round with him in the last minute. Had him on the fence, and I thought I was winning the round off of cage control. And just thought if we got that takedown, land some strikes, we'd get that decision. And unfortunately, we didn't. And I think in that last minute, I really learned. I remember looking up at the clock and thinking, oh, we're good here. We can ride this out and leave it up to the judges. And I learned that you never ever want to leave it up to those judges. You know what I mean? You should always try to keep that fate in your own hands. If you can, especially in a close fight like that, Jaden McKinnon was the hometown guy. He lived 15 minutes from the venue. His coach was also the commentator up until our fight. The other commentator was his teammate. You know what I mean? Hometown guys. So you don't want to go into an environment like that, flying across the country and leave it up to judges. You know what I mean? There was 2 opportunities in there when I thought I had the finish right there, and I got too excited and started turning into a brawler. And since that fight, we've gotten so good at staying technical. You know what I mean? If we hurt somebody being technical, why are we not staying technical to get the finish? You know what I mean? And that looks better on a highlight reel anyways. So some huge takeaways from that. You know what I mean? It sucks having that loss on your record. It hurts me to this day getting on Tapology and looking at that, watching that fight back. I just see so many things that I could have done differently to finish that fight. You know what I mean? Or get truly show the judges that, I deserve that decision. But at the end of the day, I let it be close enough to where it could be a decision like that. And, at the highest level in the UFC, you see that everywhere, where, you feel like you won, but it's not always up to you. You know what I mean? So it is up to you if you get that finish. You know what I mean? So that's what I've tried to, staying technical, not rushing it, right? But at the same time, I'm looking for that finish. I'm not looking to ride to a decision ever again.
But after this fight, you won 2 more, and with if you win this fight, do you think that your next fight will be as the pro?
100%. Definitely feel that is a possibility. So actually where we're at right now, I am in college. I go to school, for Tiffin University. I also wrestled here for 2 years. And, my college coach was generous and nice enough. I was going through a really hard time. I'd lost my grandfather who really was my father growing up. And I kind of was just angry at the world, and I knew I always wanted to fight since I was a young kid. It just kind of started the wrestling, and I was like, let's dive in. I found Demolition at around the same time I lost him, and I just kind of jumped in. When I told my wrestling coach this, he knew what I was going through, and I still wanted to come in and be able to train with the guys. I just wanted to compete in MMA, and he let me keep $10,000 to help me with school and stuff like that. So if I were to turn professional in MMA after this fight, I have one more year of school. I graduate next spring. If I were to turn professional, I would lose a scholarship, and I would be paying a lot of money out of pocket. I know that I believe that I'm gonna make $1 million fighting. You're gonna see me in the UFC someday, but I'm like I said, I'm in college right now. You know what I mean? I have an amazing family. My mother, she's supporting me in school right now. So, I'm not gonna, make my cost of living or put her in a financial burden for a year. So unfortunately, I'm actually going to be wrestling my last year of college eligibility this year, from November until March. And then after that, my MMA coach, he said, take some boxing matches. Maybe we'll see where we're at and how this fight goes, and I think it's going to go good. But some boxing matches. He may possibly want me to do one more AMI fight just because I'm going to be wrestling for 8 9 months. Got to get back in that groove of MMA again. And again, I'm 21 years old, so I'm still very young. So there's not really a need to super rush this as much as I want to. I want to start making money from these fights. Um, at the same time, you know what I mean? I promised my grandfather I'd get that degree. So that is the first thing. And if I can get that, it's almost completely free right now. I don't really pay anything. So for me to lose that scholarship just doesn't really make sense to do in my last year of college. Um, so yeah, thinking pro, we're going to turn pro next summer for sure.
But it's
The
good
goal
that
was the goal was 1 year. My goal from the beginning, Gary Young, my coach at Demolition, he was like, "Man, you can turn pro in a year." After my first two fights, I took fights back to back weekends. I fought in Ohio July 6th, and I fought in Kentucky July 13th the following weekend. MMA both fights. And he was like, "Man, I mean, at this rate, you're going to turn pro within a year." And that was what we were planning on doing. But fortunately, God has other plans. You know what I mean? And that degree is what's most important. Before I get that, and then we'll turn pro, and I'm taking off from there. So
but also it is good that this is wrestling, not any other sport, because in the end you will wrestle in your fights too. So it's like part of the
exactly.
game of MMA. So it's
Exactly, and that's where me and my MMA coach Gary, we had that sit down and talked, and also talked to our wrestling coach, but mainly Gary about what we wanted to do since I'm not going to turn pro and MMA. You know what I mean? Like at some point, when you're ready to turn pro, it's time to turn pro. You're not gonna. Personally, I don't want to sit around and take fights, where I'm not making money from the fight itself or really building that name for myself. I know I am, but once you're ready to turn pro, it's time. And MMA is not the kind of sport where like, you can get seriously hurt. So you know what I mean? Like I want to go out there and take these professional fights and really get my name on that professional regional scene. By 2023, 24, you know what I mean? And I think that a year or 2 years is perfect time. And I'm not in a super big rush. So
and how old were you when you get to Demolition Fight Team?
I was 20 years old when it was actually, it was so, it all happened like so fast. Charlie Cleveland, who's actually really good fighter, heavyweight, he fought for Cage Thunder a couple months ago. But yeah, Charlie, played football for Tiffin, the same school that I wrestle for. And, we knew each other. We had talked a little, and he had told me, "Hey man, I've been going to this MMA gym." Like he knew I always wanted to do MMA, so he's like, it was wrestling had just ended, and he was like, if you ever want to come try the gym out, you're more than welcome. Da 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 da. Takes me in, end up, liking everybody a lot in the gym. Gary told me from the jump, he's like, "Do you want to fight?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, of course." And told me like, "Man, you got a lot of potential, especially with your just raw grappling ability." I really picked on jujitsu very quick. Um, and yeah, so he just wanted me he wanted me to kind of get a feel of it and everything. Took some charity matches. The same week that I found Demolition, my grandfather was in ICU. We ended up losing him actually. It was about a week after the first time I came into demo. Was in Columbus where I'm from for about a week, for his funeral and stuff. And came back and called Gary Young, and I was like, "Hey man, I want to fight. When can you get me a fight? Like, what do we got to do to get me an MMA fight?" And started me with, I believe it was 4 USA boxing matches, won all those. Wanted me to get comfy with my hands, and then it was right in MMA. And those first three fights, like I said, I had lost somebody, and I fought very reckless, angry almost, like and now I still keep that same energy, you know what I mean, staying aggressive, but now it's way more technical. You know what I mean? I'm not rushing these finishes. I'm waiting to get in the right position to do so. So the growth that Demolition has really brought to me in just a short amount of time, in just a year, is amazing. We do a great job over there. We're really doing great things. So
And I think that you have a few really good prospects there in your team.
for sure, yeah, Gates Cook, problem, great striker. Grappling gets better every day, and he's taken nothing but the best fights he can find. He just fought the number one guy in the country at our weight class. He's in the same weight as me. Andrew Smith was going to turn pro, super good prospect, but he unfortunately had an ACL tear. He's another great partner of mine. He should be back turning pro here shortly. He's a young guy too. Obviously, we have Dylan Butka. You're going to see him back in the UFC at welterweight here shortly. He's making his cut down to 70. And he's actually helped me a lot this camp. I want to give a shout out to him and say thank you so much, bro. He's given me a lot of dieting advice and helped me a lot. And I'll tell you, this weight cut has been the best of my life. I'm already, about 10 pounds within weight, which is insane. I'm usually like 20 pounds, 25 pounds out right now. I'm about 17 days out, but I've just really fine tuned into this diet, really, invested. I weigh olive oil that I cook with. I've been weighing everything. So I've really put my all into preparing my body, my mind, and everything for this fight. And my teammates, all my teammates, man, we got a lot of really good guys in there, and it wouldn't be possible. I wouldn't be where I'm at without them. You know what I mean? So shout out to Demolition Fight Team and all my teammates over there.
And for now, you are staying in welterweight, right? You are not like moving up to middleweight.
No, no, man, I'm too short. If anything, we're gonna go down to 55. I could see myself once we maybe take a pro fight or two, and then if we get like a LFA fight or another, I would love to go back and fight for Cage Fury. They told me I'm welcome back there, whatever I'd like. They love the way I fight. So we're gonna wait till we turn pro, and I grew up a fat kid actually. So I was as a freshman in high school, I was 240 pounds at 15 years old. And I actually went down a weight class every year in high school. I was 220 my freshman year, got heavier over the summer, dropped to 195, lost about 30 pounds, and then went to 182 the following year, my junior year, 175 my senior year of high school. I wrestled 174 in college, and now we fight at 170. So definitely, and I still, when I make that cut to 70, prior to now, especially when I'm following this diet, I know that 155 is a possibility. And I just think that if I can take my power and in my aggressive grappling down to 155, man, I can be a real problem for somebody.
And when you are thinking about your career, your maybe next amateur fights, or even going further, do you have the plan in your head? Like when would you like to be like 3-0, maybe 5-0, then maybe move to like bigger promotion? Or in the end, even the UFC, do you have this kind of like calendar of the things?
Yeah, 100%. I've said from the beginning, I'm going to be, since I debuted, I'm going to be in the UFC by the time I'm 25 years old. Um, I would say, we're going to look into debut pro, early next summer. In that first year, I would like to be, I'd like to get four to five fights at least. And on top, I'd like to do some jujitsu stuff, getting some jujitsu competitions, really, because like I said, I have a very good sense of submissions and stopping things, and you know what I mean, continuing to move, not getting caught and stuff. But as far as my own submission game, I do know submissions obviously, but I really like to hone in and focus on setting up these transitions. You know what I mean? And we do that a lot, but I feel like getting a maybe a jujitsu competition or two, or some pro grappling matches would definitely be beneficial to me. So when I do turn pro, I'd like to mix those in a little bit in between fights. Yeah, I would say in that first year, 3-4-0, maybe 5-0, if we're able to get that active. And be knocking on the first year and a half, I want to be knocking on that door, to get in the UFC. And like I said, 24, 25, get in the UFC. I promised my grandfather three things when he passed away. It was A, I was going to get my degree. B, I was going to be in the UFC by 25, and C, I was going to retire my mom by 50. I got 6 years to retire my mom, and I got 4 years to be in the UFC. So we're going to make that timeline work for sure. My main goal has always been to make him proud. He's my biggest supporter growing up. Took me to my first football practice, wrestling practice, all that. He never missed anything. So I know that he's with me every time I make that walk, and that's my main goal, is just keeping those promises I made to him.
And probably it is really good to have this kind of like clear goals. It's not maybe this, maybe that, but you have this kind of three things, and you are probably like super motivated
Tunnel
because
vision.
of it.
Tunnel vision for sure. I think that if you live in the life of, oh man, I really hope I can get there, or man, I'd like to be in the UFC. Like that's not how you speak things into existence. You got to wake up every day. I wake up every day and I talk to myself in the car. I'm gonna be in the UFC in 3 years. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. Not, oh man, I hope I can do this. Man, I hope I win this fight August 2nd. No, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna win that cage thunder strap. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna be mean and I'm gonna be aggressive. I'm gonna win that belt. And I'm gonna get my fourth belt in under a year. That's the kind of mindset that I've taken into these fights. And when I take that mindset, I find success. I think that, like I said, if you live in this world of maybe or what if, you know what I mean, you usually, especially in a sport like fighting, man, if you don't walk out there confident, you're gonna run into trouble.
So it will be your seventh fight, and if you will win it, it will be your fourth belt. So you are a little bit like belt collector, right? Because every second fight is a title fight.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's just that's really my main thing, outside of fighting, especially at this amateur level, you know what I mean? It's really what you put into yourself to get eyes on you, you know what I mean? And like I go back, like I try to, like when I wrestle in my fights, I try to be aggressive, you know what I mean? Like getting to the UFC by 25 isn't gonna come from, hugging guys, regardless if you're 8-0, not like, they're not gonna sign you. You gotta draw eyes, and that's exactly what I walk out there thinking about doing every time. Um, just going out there and really looking to create a highlight out of somebody. You know what I mean? Like I go out there and I look to get a finish and make a name for myself. And I believe like fighting like that and fighting looking for a finish is how you truly get these big opportunities.
And also because right now you have only knockouts, but I think that with your style like heavy ground and pound, it will be also easier to get a submission because it's not like pure grappling that it's like only like trying to get submission, but you can beat your opponent a little bit and then take his back or go for arm triangle. So even if you don't have submissions right now, your ground and pound definitely would be helpful to win a few by submissions.
Yes, 100%. And it comes back to like where I went back once I turned pro. I'd like to take some of these grappling matches because aggressive as I am on the ground, you know what I mean? I know I inflict a lot of damage on people when I get on top. So if we can really, obviously I know how to take chokes and, arm triangles and stuff like that, but really just getting comfy in these transitions. Um, I think that if I can get some more jujitsu and we've been working on it, and like I said, when it's there, we take it, you know what I mean? It's just, I think I hit pretty hard when I'm on top of people and they tend to move when I hit them. And it's just, I just end up following them, you know what I mean? And I've taken backs before and like, I see more potential in the ground and pound, you know what I mean? More so than the choke. If I'm there already on top of, raining shots and if the choke's there, right? But if I'm landing shots, why, why stop, and hope and hold on and just hope it gets tight enough. And then, say you get out of the choke, now we're in a scramble. You know what I mean? When I could have just stayed in full mount, beating your face in. So that's just kind of my mindset when I go in there with ground and pound. But definitely jujitsu, like I said, is something that we are avidly working on. We got a lot of good jujitsu guys. We have a Defiance Black Market Jiu-Jitsu. We have a little partnership with them. Their coach comes in, teaches us technique and stuff like that. But man, I really like inflicting damage on people when I get on top. That's my goal, make you not want to be there.
And for now, do you have like a favorite fighter to watch, especially from the UFC?
To study?
Yes. So to study and just like from a fan's perspective,
Yeah.
that you need to watch his fights.
The king of ground and pound. John Jones. Yes, I love studying John Jones. As far as fighters to watch, if I'm gonna pick a favorite fighter, I'm gonna have to go Gilbert Durinho Burns or Charles Oliveira. Those are two of my favorite guys in the UFC. But as far as studying John Jones, 100%, especially on the ground, man. Especially once I'm not able to use them yet, but once I'm able to start using these elbows and stuff, just the way he was able to open and just find these ground and pound shots from nowhere, from posting and getting guys to move to where he needs them to move. That's somebody I study quite a bit. As far as the striking, I watched a lot of Gilbert Burns too. He's got a very similar frame to me, grappling background, but solid striker on the feet. You know what I mean? And he knows how to step in that fire. So I like watching Gilbert a lot too. Prime Gilbert. Unfortunately, Gilbert's getting a little old on us. But back, and it was like 2015 prime pass to 2020 Gilbert. That's my favorite. That's my Dorino. I like watching right there.
Yes, but actually in his, because right now he's on the losing streak, but he fought against Belal, against Jack de la Maddalena, so the
It's
Morales
the new
who,
generation, unfortunately. Those young guys, it happened. You see it all the time. At one point, Gilbert was that young guy coming in, taking everybody out. So it's just, it's unfortunately a part of the sport. You know what I mean? That's why I get sad sometimes with MMA. I feel like in MMA, you really see the downfall of fighters a lot more than other sports. I feel like in football and stuff, like they're kind of, they know when to go quicker in fighting, especially these UFC guys, these legends, like they take that first knockout and it's like they have that battle with themselves, like, oh, I still got it. You know what I mean? Like when you're out of your prime, like Tony Ferguson, for example, man, watching him take all those fights just broke my heart, man. Cause when I was in like a teenager, I was watching I started really watching it. Like Tony Ferguson was one of the dudes that I was really, into. I loved the way he fought. He was just crazy, mean, aggressive, and you just watched him slowly decline. I think it really came from that Chandler front kick to the chin. I think that was the one. But yeah, just stuff like that. You really see guys deflate in MMA a lot more. You know what I mean? You see their downfall, and it's sad to watch, but unfortunately, it's a part of the sport. So, but hats off to him. You know what I mean? Gilbert Burns, great fighter. I've loved him my whole life. I love studying him. Hopefully, I get to meet him someday in the PI or something. So.
and actually Tony will take, I think that in August, a boxing fight in UK.
Does he? Is he really? I didn't know that.
Yes, yes, there will be a show. Probably, I think that it's like Misfit promotion. That the main
Okay.
event is
Yeah.
the boxing Darren Till against Luke Rockhold. It's actually,
Really? I saw Tony Ferguson's in that too. I was like,
yes,
and
yes,
he's fighting a young guy. I looked at the other guy. He said his record was like 6-1 or 2. Maybe he had 2 losses. I think he had 2 losses, so 6-2. And like, I don't know, but the dude's a boxer, so I just want Tony to retire. Just you had a good run. It's hard, and it's hard for guys. I could see myself doing the same thing. You want to tell yourself you always still got it. You know what I mean? So it's just hard to, I think, really accept that once your time is, kind of past you.
yes, yes, definitely. Probably it would be better for him not to return to the cage or
Yeah, just
the ring.
coach. Just coach. I bet he'd be a great coach. Fantastic coach. He's
Yes,
got,
yes.
I mean, I saw the picture too, like, and he's got grays all over his beard. It's like, oh, no, please don't do it to him. But it's hard. You want to keep going until the wheels fall off. So I get it.
Okay, Brayden. So many thanks for the time and for conversation. I think that your next fight would be like a super interesting one, and I think that with a win, it's like obvious that you are like top maybe top 10, maybe even higher in like welterweight ranking. So definitely it will be like a big win for you.
100%. And I cannot wait for it. Super excited. Like I said, we've never been more prepared for a fight in my career so far. And I'm bringing every bit of MMA to this fight, all of it. So, thank you so much for having me on and let me talk a little bit about the fight and, promote it some. I really appreciate it.